Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, May 4th, 2026. I forgot to say, May the 4th be with you to all those who celebrate. But anyway, today we start the episode with Martin, Ted, and Nicole in Ted's office, and Martin asks his parents why he found them in an embrace with one another. And, you know, he tells them about him and Kat's plan, like I said on Friday, to divide and conquer. And, they say that they were all right or whatever. And then Nicole leaves and Martin stays and he talks with his dad. And his dad ends up telling him about how he was defending Leslie to Shanice. And he asked him, why would you do that? And he was like, I feel responsible for the woman she has become. And he asked a very poignant question to which Ted deflected and redirected the conversation. Martin asked him, why do you feel responsible for a grown woman who wreaks havoc basically everywhere she goes? The class wants to know, Ted. You want to be with her? Go be with her then. Like, leave Shanice alone. Leave Nicole alone. Because then he's going to go into how it is so odd to think that Nicole just walked out and they won't be seeing each other later to celebrate their anniversary. You don't want that. I can't see where you want that, Ted, because nothing you have done since last year happened shows that you want that. So shut up. Stop saying stuff. That's how I feel, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm over Ted. Ted B can go over there and be with Leslie and A Eva and leave everybody else alone. Because that's obviously where you want to be. Because there is no way. And then we see later why. Oh, well, since I can bring that up, we see later why no one should ever feel sorry for Leslie. Leslie is not the person you should feel sorry for. Meanwhile, Leslie and Eva are at the country club, and Eva's like, can we go anywhere but here? Because, the scandal happened there. And I don't see it for Eva, and I never will. And no one can make me. And y'all could say, oh, she tries. She doesn't try nothing. Because at the end of the day, she gonna still make faces at Nicole and Kat and act like you didn't do something to them. Them people didn't know you existed. They didn't do anything to you. But anyway, I digress. So she's trying to get her mom to go elsewhere, and she asked her mom, do you even have any kind of remorse for what you did? She was like, yeah, I regret I didn't tell her sooner. Like, this is who we're dealing with, yo. Like, forget them. So they are at the country club and they go somewhere, and Kat and because Kat ends up leaving Tomas because she stated that the person that she recognized from the list of victims from Lynette's case is the chief, Leah. And so she's like, I can go talk to Leah because we have a rapport. I can go talk to her. So she goes to talk to her, and the chief is nasty to Cat. Like, are you here to see your mom, your dad, or your dad's current girlfriend? Or something she says slick. Like, it's so, like, the chief is nasty. Like, I don't like her. I thought I did. Like, the first time we seen her, but she's quite nasty. Not feeling her. But anyway, so Kat ends up talking to her, and she says, well, she don't got no more information to give. She don't know where the lady went. She was mad that, you know, they told her she wouldn't get her money back, but she was going to be prosecuted, and then she found out that the charges were being dropped. So, she feel a kind of way, which makes sense. And so Kat's mom sees her, and well, Kat walks up on Nicole and Shanice talking because Shanice is asking. She was first talking to Leah, and Leah was asking her about Ashley and has she decided to focus on her career or whatever. And then once Leah goes off to talk with Kat, Nicole comes up and she asks Nicole about, Leslie and Ted. Like, don't ask me about that man and that woman. Like, so Kat comes up during the conversation and she tells the Kat, that they're talking about Leslie. And she was like, on today. And then it dawns on her, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Nicole. Yeah, you still shouldn't have talked to her. I don't care if today was a regular day. Don't talk to me about my ex husband and the woman he cheated on me with and who ruined our marriage. Like, I don't want to talk about them. Like, don't ask me about that. You deal with that. That's your man now. Go do with that yourself. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, Nicole and Kat decide to go have lunch at the club because Nicole's like, I'm not hiding. I don't got nothing to hide. I'm not ashamed or whatever. So they go to the club and Kat is like tense when they walk in and Nicole's like, calm down. It's all right. And then they start walking towards the dining room. And when they do, then they hear Leslie and Eva walking up. And so Kat is on high alert. And then Eva and Leslie come up. And Leslie starts talking crap about how Nicole should thank her because she would still be living a lie and all this foolishness. And Nicole's like, yeah, the proper response is to send a thank you card in the mail when someone does something for you. And, Nicole and Leslie have this back and forth. And I can't remember what Nicole said, but she kind of shut it up. And Kat was like, Mom, you sure you still want to go eat? Because you just ate and left no crumbs. It's the little corny things like that that makes this show excellent. I'm sorry, in my opinion. I like the little corny things. And so then Leslie was like, oh, put this on my tab or whatever. And then Nicole and Kat were like, oh, so we should order the most expensive things on the menu. And so then Leslie was like, if they try to put anything on my tab, deny them. Why would they try to put anything on your tab? They got money. You the one gonna run out because you spend it like it's water. But I digress, y'all, because Leslie get on my nerves. Meanwhile, but Vernon goes see Bill, and they have a back and forth about whether Martin should run for the Senate. And Bill thinks that Vernon is being naive, and he was like, "Look, Joey gonna come to me, and I'm going to bear the consequences." He's worried that they're sending the wrong message to Martin, but he said that Martin did that for him, so he feels like he has to do this for Martin, which makes sense. Meanwhile, um, Naomi goes to see Gran and she's lying to her grandmother. How can you look your grandmother in the face and lie to her? She's lying to her about having the BRCA gene and looking in her grandmother's face and lying. That's crazy to me. She goes to meet up with Ashley later on. And when she goes to meet up with Ashley, Ashley tells her in a roundabout way what's been going on with Grayson or whatever. And Ashley is stupid. Ashley is one of those people that think they have to know everything, even though knowing everything is not for their best interest. This is no way. If somebody running around stabbing people, what do you think you can do, Ashley? That's what I want to know. What do you think you can do? She gonna end up getting herself hurt. But just like Jocelyn Jacks, that's what y'all want to do. Go off. But yeah, that was Beyond the Gates for today. It was pretty decent. Keep in mind that there's no Beyond the Gates tomorrow, Wednesday, so I'll be back on Thursday to pick up where we left off because I don't really know the reason. I didn't even really know the reason for last week, but there's no episode tomorrow or Thursday. I mean, or Wednesday. I'll see y'all Thursday. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, May 7th, 2026. So, with this episode, we start with Tomas and Bill. They're having a conversation about a class action suit that they're working on. And then the conversation turns to what we saw, I believe, on Monday, where he found out that Kat was kind of helping with the investigation into Lynette. And so he makes a comment about Kat, and then Kat walks into Bill's office and she was like, "Why don't you ask me directly?" And Bill makes it clear in no uncertain terms that Kat is not in on the investigation, and because it could be dangerous to her, and he cares about her as her uncle. And then Vanessa and Haley have a conversation about the penthouse, and Haley thinks she's so smart, and she thinks that Vanessa is totally buying that Lynette up and left town, when we all know that between the conversation that Vanessa had with both Danny and Tomas and even Bill, well, yeah, the Tom she didn't have a conversation with Bill. That was Danny. Between Danny and Tomas, Vanessa knows that something sketchy is going on with she knows something sketchy is going on with Lynette up and disappearing, and she knows that the sketchiness has something to likely do with Haley. So she's not fooled, but she thinks that she has her fooled. Meanwhile, Smitty and Jacob are meeting at the motel to talk about, the recent turn of events. Jacob is saying that he hasn't heard from Ren, but then he gets a message from Ren, but then he's scared to do what Ren is asking because he doesn't know if it is a setup. Meanwhile, Joey tells Randy to follow Smitty to see what Smitty is up to. And he goes to go follow Smitty, and he follows him to the motel, but he doesn't get to see who is in the motel. But then he gets a text from Haley, and he's telling Haley like he's busy, he's working, and she's like, "I don't care, you need to get here fast." So he literally drops what his boss has him doing to go see what Haley, his stupid cousin, has to say. Randy is asking to die, and I'm not going to feel bad for him. Meanwhile, Leah is at the hospital, and, you know, Grayson comes in and he kind of like hems Leah up in the corner, and he's like, "You don't threaten me because I will blow all of this up, blah, blah, blah." So, what he then does Leah then does is calls Joey and says somebody is on to us. So is Joey in fact the impaler? I knew that Leah wasn't the boss, and obviously so, because she clearly stated that to Grayson today, because she said our boss. So obviously she's not the boss. But um is Joey? Is Joey the boss? Is Joey the impaler? Let me know what you think in the comments. Meanwhile, Nicole is in her office, and Leah comes to see if she has any more information about who may have been in her office that could have did the hack. She tells Leah that she doesn't have anything, but we do see her flashback to her conversation with Smitty. So, like I suspected, Nicole pretty much knows that Smitty went into her office and was bad. Was a bad, bad boy. She pretty much knows that. Meanwhile, Carlton comes and they're leaving to go on their date, because he offered to take her out on the night of her anniversary. And then, they go to Uptown and they're chilling. And, she finds out that he knew, that night that Ted had misdirected him so that he could push up on Nicole. And they're having a nice date, and while they're having their nice date, she's kissing him, and as they're kissing, Catherine walks in, and so they go over there and they exchange pleasantries, and um Nicole warns her daughter to not play with me right now because I ain't one of your little friends. And then Kat and Tomas decline having appetizers with them because they were just coming for a quick drink. And so then they are leaving, but then Kat comes over to express how it's good to see that her mother is happy and whatnot. And, Nicole gets up and hugs her daughter. Oh my God, we had affection between Nicole and Kat because we don't often get that, but I'm not getting on my soapbox about that. Meanwhile, Ashley and Naomi are at the house, and Grayson comes up to the house and he's like, "Oh, you need to pack a bag." He has his bag. He's like, "Pack your few things, and because we need to go." And she's like, "Go where?" And Naomi, she's like, "She not going anywhere with you." And he was like, "Now is not the time." And then he makes a comment about your husband being a dirty cop and whatever. And the lack of reaction from both Ashley and Naomi kind of tips Grayson off. And so Ashley pretty much calls things off with him until he can tell her exactly what's going on, because she's not going to keep accepting the men in her life lying to her. I just want to know, and has nothing to do with the writing. It has not. Well, I guess they need to write it. But my question for, like, when do we get to see Ashley? When do we get to see Ashley have the realization that Derek was not wrong? Because Derek's been saying that Grayson is sketchy all along, and she's been fighting with him about the fact that he says that Grayson is sketchy. And she's like, "What proof do you have?" But he says, "You know how I am. You know that I'm a good, judge of character." So him simply saying that should be enough for her, but obviously it's not because she hasn't listened. So when do we get the realization from Ashley that, oh yeah, Derek was right, Grayson is sketchy? Because all of this is sketchy and he still has told you nothing, but you know that he's in something that's completely dangerous. But anyway, off that tangent, we have Grayson, he says, "Just make sure that you take care of yourself and look out for yourself." And so he leaves, and Naomi immediately calls Jacob. And she calls Jacob and she tells him, "Are you investigating Grayson?" And he was like, "What?" And she's like, "I know you can't tell me much, but Grayson just, she tells him about what just happened, how Grayson was coming there to, make Ashley go away, and that how he got a picture of someone threatening Ashley. And she also tells him, "I wasn't in the picture that they sent him, but I was there with Ashley when that picture was taken." And so he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to call my dad. I'm going to make sure, that he puts someone on you. You stay there. Don't leave." Stupid Ashley, she's like, "I'm going to the hospital and I'm going to work my shift and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada." So she's getting dressed and she goes to the hospital. But Naomi is being smart for once, and she is staying put and waiting for direction for her husband, which is good because the police eyes are on Ashley's apartment. Meanwhile, Smitty and Jacob are at the motel and they're freaking out. And Smitty was like, "Well, maybe I shouldn't write the story. Maybe I should pull out." And Jacob is like, "No, we got to stick to it because, this could, if we pull out, it can look suspicious, and we just got to stick to it." It's getting real sticky, and I don't see this ending well. And then Vanessa and Joey, they were also talking about his sister, but he can't reach out to his sister because she asked him not to. That was Beyond the Gates. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, May 8th, 2026. So we start this episode with Naomi going over to see Smitty. So she goes over to Martin's house to see Smitty, but only Martin is there. Smitty is out, and Martin could barely tell her where Smitty is. She was like, "Oh, is he at work? Out with friends? Like, where is he?" And he's like, "Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know what that man be." Because as we know, he's, investigating this story on the case that um, Jacob is working, and so his whereabouts aren't as transparent as they should be. I don't have on any earrings. I'll be right back. And so they're just sipping tea, chatting about Smitty, and then talking about Jacob. And then they start talking about the cotillion. And Martin asks if Jacob will be in time for the cotillion and be back in time for the cotillion. And Naomi is like, probably not, but he'll be home soon or whatever. And, she's trying to speak with Smitty because whatever is going on with Grayson, they have an idea that it has something to do with what is going on with Grayson. I mean, Smitty has something to do what's going on for Grayson based on the other guy that got stabbed and Smitty being listed as his emergency contact. So she wants to, speak to him to try and get some more information for Ashley. She calls Ashley, and she's like, "I'm gonna go stay at your house with you." And then Ashley is saying, "Well, I'm going to be working all night, so that's not really an option." And so then she was like, "Well, let me know when you're leaving, whenever you do leave." um Meanwhile, Gracie, Smitty, and Jacob are at the motel, and Grayson pulled out scissors to when he realizes that Smitty is in the room, and he's trying to figure out who Smitty is. And Smitty tells him that he's an investigative reporter. And then Jacob tells him that they are in laws, and um, they're talking about, what is going on. And at one point, Jacob asks Smitty to leave. So Smitty goes home and he goes to see Martin, and he's very preoccupied. And Martin is trying to talk to him, but he is really preoccupied about what's happening. So he tells Martin that he doesn't want to think, he just wants to be. And so Martin asks him for waltz lessons, or they end up dancing and Martin's suggestion. But I then it's like Smitty is kind of like teaching him how to waltz and not the other way around. It was very weird, but that's what they do. And meanwhile, Grayson is asking Jacob for immunity, and then he will give up his contact at the hospital. And Jacob was like, "Okay, well, tell me." And he's like, "No, I need it in writing first." So Jacob makes a call to a prosecutor and gets the immunity deal written up. And the email with the immunity deal comes through. And when it comes through, Grayson is like, "Wow." And he tells Jacob that his um, contact at the hospital is the chief of staff, Leah Whitmore. Jacob tries to call Smitty, but Smitty doesn't answer the phone. And so Smitty ends up calling him back, and he tells him that Leah is the contact at the hospital. So now they know that the chief is in on this. Meanwhile, Nicole and Carlton are go to Orphe Jeans. Nicole. Nicole and Carlton go to Orphe Jeans and they're having um dessert, and then Sunny Anderson comes in and they introduce themselves and they have a nice little chat, but then they get a bit amorous and they decide to leave, and Sunny's like, "Oh, give me what they having, cuz yeah." Um and so they leave and they go back to Nicole's place and they're, getting hot and heavy, but then Nicole starts fantasizing about Ted Richardson, y'all. I can't. Nicole, excuse me, proper English. Why are you um fantasizing about him? But she did tell Danny a while ago that neither Kyle nor Colton measure up to Ted. So there's that. Anyway, Ashley and Shanice are at the nurse's station, and Ted comes up and he's trying to invite Shanice on a date. But Shanice ain't trying to fool with him because of the last exchange with him and the whole Leslie thing. And so she like really turns him down, and then they start talking about how they got problems with their men. Ashley with Grayson and Shanice with Ted. But the chief comes up and she asks Shanice to go deliver something to Ted. And Ashley's like, "No, I'll do it." And then she was like, "No, I need to talk to you." So Shanice goes to go deliver the envelope to Ted as the chief asked. And then the chief is talking to Ashley and she finds out that they are, broken up. And she's like, "Oh, that's good." And then she texts Grayson to let him know, good, getting Nurse Ashley to break up with you or whatever. Meanwhile, Shanice goes in Ted's office and Ted's like, "I'm sorry if you think I was siding with Leslie." And then she's like, "What am I supposed to do with the fact that you still have feelings for her?" And he's like, "I don't have feelings. I have resentment. Blah, blah, blah." Ted, you're full of it. Let's just start there. You're full of it, and you do indeed have feelings for freaking Leslie. It's just plain as day. Everyone can see it but you. Like, you're stupid. I can't do Ted. Ted irritates me. So anyway, Shanice ain't really feeling it, but then Ted leaves her a note, and now she has to determine whether she's going to attempt to make a relationship with Ted at work, or she just gonna walk away and count her losses. I say just walk away because he got too much baggage, because you already thought it was, he still had a thing for his ex-wife, which that would be more understandable than this thing with Leslie. But he's not doing anything to help his situation, because now it looks like he got a thing going on with Leslie, and it's just too much, and you should just count your losses and just keep it pushing. That's my opinion. Meanwhile, Danny and Andre, they at the house, child, and Andre was on the phone having a secretive conversation. So Danny trying to figure out, who he was talking to and what he was talking about. And so they start telling these little stories about them, these little fantasies. They're just cute. I just like on Dondre. I just like Danny and Andre. Like, I just adore them because they're just cute and they're light and their love is so real. So anyway, it comes out that he got a K-pop photo shoot, and so he's going to Korea, but then he also worked it so that he can take Danny to Fashion Week to see the Chelsea Cat, runway show. So like Danny is like all in love because she has a very attentive and loving partner, and it's just so good to her. He's just so good to her, and I love that for her. Next week looks very exciting. I'm very, very excited about next week. And oh, at the end of this episode, Ashley ain't out of danger because the chief got her eyes on her and she want to tie up some loose ends. But that was Beyond the Gates for this week. I will see you guys next week, and I think we have it all 5 days.